So you should now have all of your graphics in there. Obviously the ordering needs to be changed around a little bit, so I'll just pull these ones down below the health there. Okay, so this one is the mana full, this one's the stamina empty, then we've got the stamina. Okay, in fact that one is health empty, which is just there. Okay, this is all looking fine. So what we want to do now is we want to put some kind of a design, a little bit of a pattern in this grey area here in order to make it look a little bit more interesting. So you will find in the resources for this session that I've given you a text file with a link to some free clip art from public domain vectors. So these are all public domain, which means that you can use these freely in any kind of personal or commercial project. It's no problem. It is an EPS file, so you will need to download that. I've already done so. EPS is basically an extended PostScript file. What this means, it's pure vector. It's not an image, but you can import it directly into GIMP or into Photoshop or anything, and it will then convert it into an image. So that's what we'll do. So inside of GIMP, let's do File and Open. Then on my desktop, I can see the EPS file there. I'll just choose Open. Now, whenever you're working with any kind of a PostScript file, it will ask you exactly how big do you want that file to be, what kind of resolution do you want to work with. Because it's vector, it's basically all just like, it's not a real image until you set these resolutions. So we're fine going with the default values, but we do need to ensure that our graphic anti-aliasing is set on strong, text anti-aliasing is set on strong, otherwise it's going to come out really jagged. Okay, we are going to go with color, that's fine, and import. Okay, there we go, there's our piece. So with this layer, I'm just going to right click on it and I'm going to choose new from visible. That's just going to create me a new layer. The reason why I do that is the default layer, if I try and delete the background, it just stays white, whereas if you duplicate the layer, the background then disappears. Okay, so on this one, I'm going to go over to my fuzzy select tool, just going to select the background and press delete, select none. Then I just basically want this middle section here. So what I want to do is actually start selecting these pieces, but my mode needs to be on add to the current selection. Okay, otherwise it's just going to select something else. So it's just a case of then going around selecting all of these pieces. Just make sure that you get them all. It's quite a nice little design. It goes nicely on that background. And obviously feel free to choose whatever you want. You don't have to go with this design if you've got a different design in mind. So there we go, I've selected all of that now, so I'm just going to do edit and copy back over onto this one. Now I'm going to do edit, paste as a new layer, and there we go, I've got the image. And what I want to do is basically just shrink this down. So that's tools and transform tools and scale. Okay, so now I can just basically scale this down. I'll scale it to about there, I think, and then move it and see if I need to scale it anymore. Yeah, just a little bit more. So tools, transform tools, and scale. That's pretty good. So my scale there is width of 304, height of 188. Scale, all right, excellent. All right, and that sits in there nicely. So what I want to do, because obviously it's a little bit dark at the moment, I want to change its mode from normal to screen so that it brightens it up on the background. And then I want to change its opacity down to, I just want to lower this opacity until you can barely see it, maybe about 30. Okay, so 30.8 is fine, just so you can barely just see that. Okay, then I want to right click on this layer and I want to duplicate it. using my move tool. Simply want to move this across. Now I think I can use my keyboard. Nope, this doesn't let me. It will do in Photoshop, but it looks like in GIMP you have to move it manually. We're just going to put it so that it almost matches up. So if you just click on something else, you can see that you got that nice kind of design going on there. Once again, I'm going to duplicate that layer again and just move it across. Try not moving up and down like I just did. Yep, that looks nice. Okay, and then once again, let's just duplicate that layer, move it across. Let's have a look. About there, I think. Yep, alright, that's nice. And then right click and duplicate layer again. This one will probably go over the edge, which is fine. Just make sure that I've got it lined up properly. About there. Yeah, alright, that looks good. So this one that's gone over the edge, all I need to do there is effectively just cut that part out. So I'm going to go to my free select tool and I'll line it up with the edge, just come straight down like this around. So I'm just basically cutting this part out. So now I've got it selected. Go back to the move tool, so it's a selection, and just press delete, and that will then get rid of that part that's overhanging. Okay, so we've got quite a nice little design going on there, and feel free to adjust any kind of opacity if it's too intense or anything like that. What I also would like is for these little icon blocks to also have that same design on them. So I'm just going to move this below the designs, so now you can see them showing through on these icon blocks. And what is this one? I think this is the empty. Yep, just make sure that this one, the health meter, is above these designs. Okay, so the order in which the layers are placed, quite important. Alright, excellent. So we've got something that looks quite interesting. We are going to be putting some text in a little bit later, but for now we need to place all of this into a group so that we can then scale this entirely as a group. So what we need to do is to effectively create a new folder, which will create a new group, a layer group. Just put this at the top. Now unfortunately I can't mass select inside of GIMP, or at least I don't know how to, but in Photoshop you can, so it's a lot easier. But let's just drag these in fact start from the bottom. So pasted layer, in fact let's start from ref actually. Drag that in. There we go. Then just basically have the same order going on. Now if you do accidentally drag it above the group, make sure it's sitting inside of the group. It's very important, so you want it to sit on there. Okay. Can be a little bit tricky. If you see a line like that, that basically means it will go above the group. If it's highlighting on the group itself, it will go into the group. There we go. And what that means now is I can close that group down. I can also move that group if I need to. But I can do various things, like I can now resize this. So if I switch on my ref again, so we can see it all matches up nicely. If you've got any bits that are kind of sticking out or it's not lined up properly, that's the time when you need to kind of start moving things around. All of these images are sitting on top of that ref image. So taking this as an entire group, what I want to do is go to Tools, Transform Tools, and Scale. Okay, now I do have a specific value that I want to use here. So my width, I want it to be 945. Just just going to press enter or return. The height should be 532, and that's a relatively good size for our UI. Okay, just going to click scale, so it all automatically scales up. Then if I now just switch off my ref, that is going to be our final size for our UI, which is going to sit down here in the actual game. So let's just click on this part at the bottom here, go to 100%. This is full resolution, if you like, at 1920 by 1080. This is how big it's going to be on the final screen. Okay, and it looks quite nice. So I can close this one down. And what I want you to do with this is basically just save it again. So save as, I've called mine UI bar. Call this UI bar 2 because this is the smaller one. And what we need to do in the next video is start cutting these pieces out so that we can then save them out as PNG files, bring them back into Unity.